suppose some of you that we don't want this audit, but we want this particular person, then you were required to give a special notice. Now, as per the query, that also has not happened. It just happened that you people did not approve it. In that case, let us read now section 139(10), which says that if no auditor has been appointed at particular AGM, the existing auditor will continue. So can we rely on that? If you go to the situation clearly, yes, no auditor was appointed. So the existing auditor will continue. Now that is absurd, isn't it? The concept of ratification is that that person should be either continue to be allowed or not continue to be allowed. If it is not continue to be allowed, if you say section 139(10) should say that yes, the same person should continue, then it makes an absurdity of that provision. So let us because we might say that also will not apply. Finally, we come to rule 3.7 of the auditor's rules, which I think deal with this, and see again, I don't know whether this question must have been raised earlier many times. What does the government have power to make rules? Can they modify the act? Can they give the exemption which are not existing? Or can they give clarification, or they can only merely, specifically provide only those to which it has been given powers to? Now there are two things. One is of course what you should be allowed to do, what the powers are. Then we can take a literal view and say that yes, certain things where relaxations are given. Now this is again not fully true, but in case of relaxation, the rule-making power should be allowed. But it cannot create a fresh requirement, it cannot give a penalty and so on. In that case, here rule 3.7 says that if the appointment is not ratified, then the board shall appoint, the board of directors shall appoint a new director after following the required procedure. Now, they have not laid down law. So here I will import the requirement of casual vacancy, and in case of casual vacancy, it is said that within 30 days the board of directors shall appoint. So not in the question of resignation, but in any other case, let's say the auditor has died. So within 30 days. So I would say that no time limit is there. But if you apply and take a fair interpretation, then within 30 days the board should appoint another auditor. Now, so I think the answer to the question according to me is that it is not a casual vacancy, it is actually nothing. It is like no man's land. But this particular rule you can apply and say that that particular board should apply and ideally appoint the auditor within 30 days. Again, this does not leave everybody happy because there is the concept of removal of auditors. And this is the way the auditor would be removed. So suppose he is a person becoming very uncomfortable. In the next auditor, see, there is no debarment of the promoters from not voting here. So even if the promoters voting the controlling interest as they usually do, at least at the AGM, the promoters will not appoint them. They will vote against it. So it is as good as removal. But still, I think somewhere a balance will have to be there that since a view has been given to the shareholder, at least he is completing 1 year of audit, and to give the provision effect to that, maybe this provision can continue. And therefore, finally, I think the answer is that the board should appoint a new person. The existing auditor should not be allowed to. It is not removal. So I think that also comes to an end to my thing. Because question number 30 has been and 31 both have been dealt in great detail by Vinoshita Krishnagana. So I think all the questions are over. Thank you very much. I think the questions were very, very interesting.
What will not notice of all the listing regulations will come into effect very soon. Listing regulations. Listing regulation has got chapter 2 which talks about overarching principles. Overarching second chapter in listing regulations is overarching principles. What overarching principles objective? If you look at it, SEBI's debate paper or say the board note, SEBI board note, which is available on the site. What it says is that in case they are not able, in case of any doubt about any particular specific rule in terms of letter or word, or even when something is implemented by the letter of the rule, SEBI and exchanges are expected to interpret that event in terms of objectives of the particular rule, spirit of the rule, and therefore they can still take a view whether its compliance is full or not. That is, a lot of discretion has been transferred into the hands of the regulators under the heading of overarching principles. So my request to you people is, please read that when you are dealing with listed companies.
Just passing, since we are now relaxed, I'll just add to this. There is a curious decision of SEBI, which you may look it up. I don't remember the case now. I think I've written an article on that in the latest BCA journal. See, SEBI has interpreted, I'm just, with due respect, I'm just trying to slight different view on one particular point. is that SEBI has taken a decision. You know, the issue, I don't want to go into great detail. See, the issue before that was the controversial issue before the SEBI. It was alleged that certain people had violated the SEBI regulation, the SEBI before regulation to be specific. SEBI said that, look at our FAQs. In our FAQs, we have given the answer to this. So law provides X thing, we have given the answer in, in the FAQs, the frequently answered questions, an interpretation, the exchange situation should be Y. So he said you should have read the FAQs, and FAQs apply, and we will uphold the FAQs, and they are binding on us, they are very much valid, and you should, that is the truth. Now I cannot understand this. SEBI is not a dictator or omnibus. What it says is not law. There is a SEBI Act. There are SEBI regulations. To pass the SEBI regulation, we have parliament. SEBI proposes the regulations, it notifies the regulation, but for 30 days, you have to be reading the regulations. So SEBI cannot say that, okay, I have given this particular law. Incidentally, clause 49 is, I don't know whether it's already part or soon to be part of the listing, regulations.
Yeah,
They are already part.
it's been approved by the board already.
Correct.
It will be notified in the gazette any time now.
So SEBI regulations are, once it becomes, they become law. If you violate them, there are certain consequences. You can be prosecuted. So you cannot say that, SEBI cannot say that, okay, I have given this particular guidance to you, now you follow it. No, this is guidance only. Even if you read the FAQ, they have said they have only for guidance. So SEBI has taken an unfortunate view that my own FAQs will override the regulation. That is totally wrong. Some high court has to come up and throw it out. So SEBI cannot say that whatever I said is the law. RBI can say, if you read the RBI NBFC regulation, there is a particular provision for that. Even the Act gives it a lot of powers. And it says that whatever our view is binding and final and binding on the company also. But RBI is different. SEBI fortunately does not have such power. So, I think we should not be so much. Unfortunately, it has taken such a decision. I hope it is reversed.
But I have to add this here. Not from threatening or anything. What I'm saying is, many decisions which appear to be little arbitrary from this perspective, SAT is upholding them. SAT is upholding them, saying that SEBI can do it in interest to interest. Last, if you look at it, last 1 year, 80% of SEBI decisions and SEBI aggregation officers' views have been upheld by SAT. It's a very different situation. 2 years back, situation was not less than 20, not more than 20-25% of SEBI decisions are being upheld by SAT. The situation is just opposite now. Most of the SEBI decisions are getting upheld. And once it is upheld by SAT, it's very difficult for convincing the client to go up higher and up. So let us be clear about it. We are, as practitioners, after all, we have to look at the welfare of our client and do that. That's where the question is that conservative in society. I'm just bringing this listing regulations to your notice because something new which is coming up, which has got an impact on us. That's the reason I'm bringing it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narasimhan and Jayan for brilliant, I would say, exposition on the subject in the sense that there was very clear cut reply to all the questions. There was no if and but on any of the questions, and there was that shows the clarity of thought and mastery of the subject by both the speakers. Any questions you still want to ask that we can have in like 5 minutes couple of questions, otherwise.
Yes, there are two shareholders who are brothers and the same are directors. How to file the form for related party transactions? Both are related.
Yeah, I think there is one, I'm not going to recall the case law. You say Mukesh Bhai and these two, I mean, they're brothers. But in such case, they were not considered relatives for this purpose in particular circumstances. I'm not trying to say they will improve. Being blood relatives alone will not make them actually the relatives in the sense of the term in all situations. Normally, yes.
If I can add to that, your question has been very well dealt with by one of the Jayant Bhai's write-up in BCAJ about majority or minority rules. I think that is in a great detail, exactly the same question.
Regarding section 160, can board recommend appointment of directors? Say for example, board has appointed additional director till and tenure is still AGM. So now, is it necessary some member should recommend his appointment, or even board can do that?
It's nomination committee should do it.
But I think finally the nomination,
Prior-
formal
prior
nomination has to be
to
come by our shareholders.
Of course.
Because there is a deposit and all, there is a particular procedure.
Yeah.
Yes, the board cannot, the board, as you rightly said, can appoint additional director. But again, that also has to continue at the next AGM. So at the AGM, if you are talking, then the nomination has to come from a member
Yeah.
with the required procedure, deposits and everything.
That is the proposal will go from the company side saying, on the basis of nomination committee's recommendation, the notice is sent to the general body saying that this is the person, this is the profile, this is the details of the person. Please pass a resolution is placed before, draft resolution is circulated. That's how it should be. Board by itself, only additional director can be appointed.
Loan taken from a cooperative credit society, will it fall under the exemption or will it be a default?
It will not fall. It is not a company. Because, unfortunately, just to give another example, LLP is also technically a corporate body now. Neither LLP nor cooperative credit society. Unless it falls on a, credit society different, but suppose a cooperative bank and if it is there in that list and all that, then it will be exempt, but not cooperative credit society.
Thank you very much, friends. Reply by Dr. Narasimhan would be mailed to all of you. And Jayan Bhai also we have requested to give the replies in writing, and he has also agreed. So those also would be circulated. With one, either that they have their own views, so you could use it in a manner which you feel appropriate. And after this opens this vote of thanks, there will be open session for 15-20 minutes. I would request all of you to be please seated. And may I now request Jasmine Bhai to propose vote of thanks.